Welcome to the post-game show.
Hey, it's the Weekend Warriors post-game show brought to you by who's sponsoring us? Oh,
USC.
You know what? Yeah. Is that the Trojans or the Cocks? Well, I mean, it's USC,
Anyway,
right?
Yeah, there's the
Seriously.
Gamecocks and the Trojans. Yeah.
I feel like that's appropriate that those are the nicknames.
So anyway, we just finished our show, and it is Indianapolis 500 weekend, and we got to talk about Neil's dad and his experience.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. Like I said, I feel badly that I haven't been more into auto racing, which is funny because my wife is a huge NASCAR fan.
Right.
And so like, and the other thing too is that my dad actually raced in NASCAR too. In my possession, I have a,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have a 1950 NASCAR driver's license of my dad's.
I did not know that.
So it was called generally stock car racing back then, right? There were other racing bodies like AAA was a sanctioning body for auto racing back then in the 50s. So my dad has a lot of stuff. My dad dabbled in stock car racing after the open wheel racing days. So he did a lot of, and this is literally the time when you entered your own vehicle. Like you drove there and you just drove onto the track or you towed it. In some cases you had a separate car for that. But he actually raced he did stock car racing for a couple of years in the like 55, 56. He retired in 57. So I should be a way bigger NASCAR auto racing fan than I am, but
and I'm not.
I'm okay with, like, I can kind of enjoy it now.
Right.
But like with NASCAR especially, it's just different because it used to be just a race, go in circle a bunch of times, done. Now they've got stages and they've got points, and it's like there's more for fans to get behind and pay attention to. I get it, but otherwise, doesn't interest me. Anyway, but yeah, so every Memorial Day, I say to myself, I should go to Indy sometime to the race, and then I forget about it until April of the next year. I'm going to try not to this. Like I said, I do really want to get it to an Indy race.
I would love to go too.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Hey, we'll do a Weekend Warriors trip there. Why not?
I think I would love to go there.
All right.
So
I'm going to write that down.
yeah, write it down. I think we got through most of our stuff today.
We
Not
got through
all of it, but most of it.
Well, all the stuff that was good. Oh, the Trevor Bauer thing.
So we did that clip.
I had an idea for an intro music for that bit, and I didn't do anything. I was thinking about it Friday night, and I didn't actually create it. I was going to, and I got distracted or whatever. So I always show up to the studio an hour early so we can talk about stuff and go through it. And we just made that clip right here on the spot. So we just it took us like about 10 minutes.
That was a good clip.
That was funny.
I like that clip.
Yeah, I wanted the to be a little higher, but it worked out fine. So
Trevor Bauer.
that's good stuff.
We're gonna play that again and again and again.
Yes, we are. In fact, we're gonna have that every week just so we can play that clip.
You know what the sad part is? So a lot of people don't. It's really weird. The texting part of our show, it's tough. It's Saturday at 10 a.m. So a lot of people aren't up.
Did anybody text at all?
We had one text, and it was a drunk text.
So a drunk in the. Are you?
It was from Silver Pops again. He's like, "Hey guys, good morning. Oh, I'm already drunk texting." I was like, "Whatever, dude."
Oh my goodness.
So
I'm a little jealous.
We'll either get like 10 texts or we'll get one.
Yeah.
It's just a hit or miss depending on if everybody's up. We get a lot of people that listen to our show afterwards. They stream it. And you were saying earlier before the show, that's just the way things are nowadays.
Well, I feel like, I totally agree. And I think that if you look at the most successful, even a lot of the traditional radio shows, so like Dan Patrick's a great example. The podcast is as important or more important than the actual live show.
Yeah.
Because the thing, it gets syndicated and it gets moved to different time frames and stuff. I don't, thinking about like the long-term future of broadcasting in general, it's following in the path of television where it's very much, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not linear anymore, right? Like you can, if I want to listen to a show, I can just pull it up and listen to it whenever I want.
It's all at your fingertips.
And I don't have to record it. I don't have to worry about it for later. I mean, it's
that's why people binge watch things.
Yeah.
Right? Because now they can do that. They don't have to sit there
and wait.
Can
you imagine somebody binge watching the Weekend Warriors?
They would kill themselves.
They probably would.
Oh my gosh.
This is how, you have Ozempic, right? For weight loss. Watch the Weekend Warriors for a day straight.
Let's talk about Ozempic.
Let's talk about Ozempic. No, anyway, let's not, because everybody else is.
Everybody else is taking it, but whatever.
Good grief.
I like the way I look. Okay.
Yeah, I look like a scarecrow. Well, no, it's interesting because I've seen people that work at my company,
Right.
where I've seen their profile, like you see on Slack, right? You'll see their profile picture they put on Slack, and then you'll see the picture on LinkedIn, and you're like, "Oh, you did the Ozempic.
You
didn't
did
you?"
Ozempic, and suddenly you
'cause
look really thin.
You've been trying for years, and now suddenly you're thin. That's crazy. Well, okay, so since we talked about Ozempic, right? Like, think about all of the stuff that people had to do to achieve that level of weight loss in the past.
Yeah.
It was always the gastric bypass.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. And I had a relative of mine who actually, you remember Sally, right?
Oh, yeah.
I had a relative of mine who
yeah.
who did the surgery, and she lost a ton of weight, and she looked fantastic, and she'd never been healthier. And then, life did its thing, and she regressed to the point where she, with her existing new stomach, gained all of that weight back and then some. And you know what the difference was? Because she found out how fast you can get drinking when you have a small stomach.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's what happened. So alcohol did her in, and she ended up passing away of something with cirrhosis, actually.
Ugh.
So yeah, it's just like, so to me, I feel like if Ozempic had been around then, that wouldn't have happened to her. I mean, she's still bad thing. The cirrhosis may have happened anyway, but it's like physiologically, like altering your body like that, just that always bothered me as the way to do it. But this Ozempic kind of, it feels like that, right? Because when you're on it, you literally don't eat as much. Remember back in the day when people were getting gastric bypass, and they used to give you, like, when you got the surgery, they'd give you this little card that basically said it's okay if they order from the kids menu because they can't eat much anymore or something like that.
Right.
I used to see that, but anyway. I'm sure you weren't even planning on talking about Ozempic today.
Or the death of your relatives. No, I wasn't.
Well, relatives, they do that sometimes.
So let's go back to sports. Let's go back to Anthony Richardson, because I didn't really get to finish. We were talking about him. We got cut off pretty hard. The hour just goes by so fast. It's just we need more time. It's hard.
We're going to fix that soon.
Yeah, we are. I wanted to get into the fact that he was talking about, he made the comment, the times I did get hurt, the one concussion, that was completely me because I slowed down in the end zone. Everything else just happened because we play a dangerous game, and there's nothing I can do about that. I really like this kid. I think he's playing with a half a deck. I think he's going to get hurt bad.
Yeah.
Like really bad. And it's a shame because the kid has all the talent in the world to be something special, but I don't think his head is there. And if his head doesn't get there soon, he's not going to be in the game very long.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah. At some point, I mean, you don't hear Joe Burrow talk like that.
No.
You didn't even hear Vince Young talk like that in the day.
No, you didn't. I mean, you didn't. Even RG3.
RG3, or think of all the quarterbacks who are running, like Donovan McNabb or Randall Cunningham or hell, Fran Tarkenton. Like they didn't. Well, I'm just gonna go out there and do. That's like, I get it, right? Like,
Right.
Is he trying to portray some machismo? Is he trying to show he's tough? Is he virtue signaling for his teammates? I mean, is that what's happening?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, ultimately, I mean, and the thing is, nowadays there's so much more science and so much more data and so many more resources for avoiding or helping to reduce or minimize the impact of injuries. And you're just like, I'm just going to throw my body to the wood chipper, see what happens.
I think when you're young, especially as an athlete, they just think they're invincible, right? It's not going to happen to them. They can go fight through anything, any little. And I think what you learn as we get older, and I have a great story. My son just went through this. So as we get older, we learn how to listen to our bodies.
Yes.
Because they speak loudly.
Yes, they do.
I think when you're young and you're an athlete, you feel like you're invincible and you can get through anything. And that's this guy is thinking too. And I think RG3 is a great example. He was fantastic his first couple of years.
Yes.
I mean, he was a stud, but I remember because him and Russell came out at the same time, right? And it was always those two going at it. There were some great games between those two. And I always would say, that guy better learn how to friggin' not take a hit because he's going to go down.
Right.
And then I watched the game where he took that hit and he was never the same again. And that was the end of RG3. Who could have been an amazing quarterback in the league. So Anthony Richardson, it would be great for someone like RG3 or Russ to go talk to this kid and say, dude, you got to be smart, man.
Yeah, it's almost like a fatalist attitude. Like if it happens, it happens, right?
Yeah.
Like you somehow think you're going to tempt the fates.
Yeah,
and be
maybe.
like, I'm gonna manifest this. Maybe that's his manifesting. I have no idea.
And I wonder if, you start thinking about NIL. These kids are making money before they even get there now. right? They're making good money. They're making more money in NIL than they make in their rookie contracts. So do they have a different attitude because of that? Because usually it's like you get into the NFL, you're not making the greatest money, but you're making good money. But you know, once you perform on that rookie deal, now you're going to make the bucks. A lot of them are making the bucks before they even get there.
Right.
So does that change the way they think about things? Hey, I'm young, I'm rich, I'm going to be fine. It's all good. I don't know if that's plays in it or not, but I think it does change the mentality a little bit.
Oh, I think it does. It has to. There's no way it won't, right? I mean, also, too, you think about it from a financial education perspective. That's something that's actually, there are some colleges now, some universities, like I think Berkeley, for example, they actually have a class on financial management for athletes, or people who want to be, right? So there's a lot more thought, because that's one of the things the NFL used to do, is that not all the time, but when they started to reform and be a little more friendly to long-term stuff, is they would have these they still do these financial education classes, like teaching you how to be an NFL player. And one of the things is how to save your money, because, we don't want to deal with all these players who, shoot, through all their money and then they're homeless, and that looks bad on the league. And also to the healthcare issue with the CTE and the whole bit. But yeah, I think that financial literacy of players is getting better too, which that's something that the NFL generally had all that power at one point, because we will show you how to be a good steward of your money and stuff. And now they already know that before they get in there. So literally it's removing a lot of the familial kind of family oriented stuff out of it's purely a transaction, just purely a transaction. How much I already know how to manage my finances. I'm already making so much entering in the league anyway. I just want a stage to make more money, or at some point it has to come down to, I love playing this game.
That's true. And I think we're going to see a little less of that sometimes. I don't know. I just have this feeling, there's this kid, the NIL has changed the world, right? Everything's different now. So we talked about the antitrust suit and what that's going to do, which is insane. Think about that, right? So I was reading about this kid. I think, I wish I had it in front of me. I think he went to Florida or somewhere, but he was a quarterback, and he was promised all these things in the NIL.
Oh, I heard the story.
And then he didn't get them. And so he left. And now he's suing that school because they lied and didn't give him what he was supposed to get. So that's the kind of mentality. And it's so weird now. It's like, it is a business transaction. It's a business. I mean, if I'm a college, I'm not really sure I want to play in this game anymore. Is it really going to be worth it?
And that's one of the multiple factors. Like, can you imagine if that happened? Let's pick on club baseball or club softball, for example, right? There's already a problem. It has been for decades. The problem of you sign with the team and then you unsign and go sign with somebody else, right? Can you imagine if some kid signed up for a club baseball team and got promised all this stuff and never happened? Imagine them going back and suing.
That could happen.
Can you imagine?
Our club had contracts that the players had to sign.
Yeah.
And the parent had to sign on top of it to make it legal in a sense.
Exactly.
But it was a commitment to our club for one season.
Yeah.
And it was an exclusive rights commitment.
Yep.
You couldn't play with anyone else. You couldn't do anything. And you couldn't just terminate the contract. Right? But players did all the time, and when they weren't happy. And it's stupid, right, to even have that, because we could have went after them legally. Why would I do that? Right? That's just dumb.
Exactly.
For the club, it's more the financial commitment that keeps the club going, because the club requires so much money in a year to go, and the player bails. Now that's a financial commitment that's gone. It hurts the club. It's a business, and even at 9 years old, it's a business.
Yes, it's a business.
That's what club has done. That's what NIL is doing, and it's. I don't know where we're going to be 10 years from now, but I think you're going to see less colleges that have these major sports like football, for instance. I don't think everyone's going to play in the college football game anymore, because they don't want to, because there's too much around it. I think you'll have your 2 super conferences that are going to have their set schools that are all about this, because they're going to make billions of dollars in revenue with everything else. And then everyone else is going to be like, we ain't playing this game.
This is going to be a have and have not for sure.
I agree.
There's a lot of things. Something else, too, that I just thought of before we get off this topic is, and I've been thinking about this a lot, because one of the pillars of college sports was Title IX.
Yeah.
Right? The equality. The code in I forget where exactly in the U.S. code is, where basically it just guarantees equal opportunity. And so because of that, schools have had to adjust the sports they carry. because they want to have equal distribution, men and women, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to be fair about that. And obviously we know that college football is that's usually the cash cow. That's the revenue generating system, right?
Absolutely.
So when you start taking that away, when college football loses its prominence, when this whole dynamic starts to take effect, where the quality of the product goes down and people don't care anymore because they can't get good players, et cetera, that's going to affect Title IX, right? Because a lot of these schools, like I said, football is the cash cow. And then they basically subsidize all these other sports that they have to have, or want to have for whatever reason. And so now when you take that cash cow away, schools are going to do what? They're going to cut back, and they're going to have fewer sports.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to rely more on their boosters.
Yep.
And that's going to have such a, I don't, it's hard for me to fathom the trickle down effect that all this is having, trickle up and trickle down. We've talked about how it's going to impact high school. This is going to impact the pros, like we talked about.
Yeah, I agree.
So
This is going to be fun to watch.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot to talk about over the next few years.
I feel like I'm watching Rome in the I feel like I'm Nero and I'm watching Rome and I see a puff of smoke and I'm going to go get my fiddle and start playing, right? Like that's how I feel about college sports now. It's crazy.
Last topic. All right, last topic.
Last one.
Last topic. And this is well, because I'm going to play golf today, and then Neil's coming back later, and we're going to have some carne asada, and we're going to have a good time. Right? So, last topic. Yesterday, I was on the Daily Blender with those guys, and
Okay.
you know how we talk about different kinds of guilt, right?
Yes.
So I remember now for everybody that Daily Blender is a primary Phoenix audience. I talked about what's called LA guilt, and they're like, "What's LA guilt?" I have LA guilt. Neil has LA guilt. Some of our listeners have LA guilt
Yes, they
because
do.
we're just so used to winning championships. And it wasn't even meant to be funny. It's a fact.
Yes.
Right? Because we've grown up, we talked about Chick Hearn and all those guys and how many championships they called. We're just used to that. We expect that, right? We watch teams, we watch them win championships. If they didn't, we'd be like, what's going on here? This doesn't make any sense. We see it all the time.
Right.
So we have a guilt and we feel sorry for people in other places like Phoenix where they don't win championship. They just don't, right? And it must be frustrating as heck to grow up in that environment. It must have been tough. I can't even imagine it because I didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
So I talked to Randy about it, and he's going to come on. We're going to do a podcast with Randy. Randy White is one of the hosts of the show, full-time Arizona guy, been here forever. And I
Good
said,
guy.
we need to talk about this. I go, because it's a real thing.
Yes.
LA guilt. It's actually a real thing.
Well, and I can relate to living in Minnesota for 28 years. The dynamic is very similar there too. They do not know what it's like to win championships.
Especially after last night.
The last major, oh my goodness, yeah, them losing at they had that game the entire time.
They had both games.
They
Down
lost it
2-0.
at the end. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just, and I know what's happening. All these Minnesota fans are like, "Oh no, it's happening again."
Yeah.
it's like
You can see it on their faces.
We're being sucked into the abyss,
Yeah.
and we can't stop it this time as much as we'd like to. Yeah, Minnesota professional sports fans are in the same boat as Arizona sports fans. Very few championships, a long history of futility, a long history of getting close but not making it. I mean, the Vikings are a fantastic example. Wide left, missed the field goal. Take a knee, throw across the body, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then the Twins haven't won since '91, and that's like there's in Minnesota, it's like people who won't shut up, CrossFit, vegan, 87 and 91 Twins, and also the Halloween Blizzard of '91. Everyone talks about that too all the time. It's crazy. So yeah, I get it, right? Like I can relate to Arizona fans having lived in the Minnesota environment for 28 years and experiencing that futility firsthand.
Yeah, it's tough.
And then of course it's just like in Minnesota, you've got this rival in the neighboring state who is doing much better than you, right?
Right.
So like the Packers, that's what I call.
true.
So we talk about LA guilt. I have a saying that I accuse generally Minnesota Vikings fans. I call it Packer envy. It's Packer envy, right? Because to them, this is the absolute truth, is that there are some Minnesota Vikings fans, for example, who the Vikings could go 2-15 every year for eternity, And as long as those 2 wins are against the Green Bay Packers,
Right.
they're good. Like, it's been a successful season.
Yeah, I understand that though.
They don't care about right.
That's
I get it.
USC UCLA, and they can go 1-9
Right,
as
right,
long as they
right.
beat
As long as they-
UCLA. I don't care.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that Vikings fans have such low expectations
Yeah.
that winning a division, that's cool. Like I remember the one year that the Vikings won the division, but they split with the Packers, and Randy Moss was pissed off about it. Like seriously,
I get it. I totally get it.
Like it's just that, and then it's anyway. But
The reason it came up on the show was because they were talking. They had their moment, right? Oh, look, the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3, and I'm like, so
in the regular season,
I'm like, let's look at the standings. Oh, you're 8 games behind. I go, the Dodgers. I go, Dave Roberts probably said, hey guys, let's give these guys a couple just so they think they're actually doing good. So I was being the jerk. I was doing that. Go figure, right?
let's have a bullpen game.
I said baseball, 162 game season. Every team loses to everybody. Every team goes on a losing streak. The Dodgers have lost 3 in a row. They got beat last night, right?
Yes.
Am I worried? No, that's baseball. That's how it works. When it's all said and done, the Dodgers right now, we were grading them for the season. I said the Dodgers right now are a C because they've got a long way to go. They're still not where they're going to be.
Yes.
And they got a lot
Agreed.
of injuries, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And then Randy had said the Diamondbacks were a B+. I said, you're out of your mind. I said, they're 2 games below 500. I said, they've looked horrible, and I gave all the things of how they're doing bad. And they do have some injuries, too. I'm like, but they have not performed at a B+. They're a C, C- at best. And you have to look at that in baseball.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they won't
here's
be
the thing.
better.
I want to like the Diamondbacks more. I really do. It's nice to see Corbin Carroll kind of get back into his stride because he was batting at the bottom of the order. Now he's back at the top.
But he doesn't belong up there. He's batting $191.
Okay,
That we talked about that yesterday too. He should not be up there. He needs to be on the bottom of the lineup, taking it easy, taking the pressure off him, and then if he starts hitting again, he'll turn over to the top of the lineup. That's what makes sense. So it's a bad. Again, Lavello is a terrible manager. That's a bad decision. Really bad decision. That's just baseball.
I don't know what to think of him as a manager. I'm not sure if he's some kind of mad genius or just a jerk. I can't tell.
I just don't think he's a very good manager of a game, and I think they got to the World Series last year because they went on a run in spite of him. It wasn't because of him.
Yeah.
They could have been better to get rid of him this year, but I understand why they didn't. You made it to the World Series. You can't just get rid of him.
Yeah.
But I think he might be gone halfway through this year if they don't recover.
Then you'd be like the Lakers getting rid of a coach after 1 year.
Well, they do that all the time if they don't like him. Whatever LeBron says goes.
LeBron. Oh my
Anyway.
gosh.
All right, man. So
Well, that was a great show.
that's
I
our
liked
after
it.
show.
Yes. Brought to you
post-game
where we
show.
can use profanity whenever we want. And notice how Ralph doesn't. Ralph's not a cusser.
That's not my
He's
thing.
not really a cusser. I am. It's my kind of fighting against my fundamental Baptist upbringing. So now I just drop F-bombs.
So you need therapy too.
Oh, absolutely, 100% I do. You kidding me? Why do you think I do this show? This is my therapy.
This is your therapy.
fantastic. You're healing me, everybody. Thank you.
Oh gosh.
That's just fine.
All right. Well, anyway, hey, thanks for joining us today. It's what is it now? It's 11:20. So here we are, 20 minutes after our show, and we're going to call it a day. And I'm going to go golf, and you're going to go do what you do, and then we're going to come back and have some food, and
Carne asada, baby.
we'll be back on next Saturday at 10 a.m. on 1580 The Fanatic, 99.3 FM. So I hope you guys join us again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.